Hello, welcome to Vivi's Book Loft, and today we're going to talk about Swordheart by Kingfisher. Kingfisher is the pen name for Ursula Vernon. She writes children's books. Kingfisher is the name that she uses with her romances and horror. Swordheart is the fifth book that I've read from Kingfisher. I first read her A Sorcerer's Come to Call, and then I read 3 of the Paladin books: Paladin's Grace, Paladin's Strength, and Paladin's Faith, I think is the third one. But yeah, so this is the 5th book I've read from Kingfisher, and I've noticed a pattern with her romances. Not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but just something I noticed. Kingfisher tends to write female leads with some sort of insecurity regarding their romantic lives, or either they're insecure about something or they're inexperienced, and the male lead is the one that gets to reassure them, which is not a bad thing. Other romances do it as well, but I just kind of notice it because 3 out of 5 Kingfisher books that I've read follows this pattern. So the female character is insecure, she's inexperienced, while the male character is, more experienced and tends to reassure her or show her the ropes, basically. For Swordheart, we have Hala, she's a widow, but she doesn't really have a lot of romantic experience with her husband because her husband was kind of inattentive. Whatever relationship they had was more one-sided, the husband taking and Hala giving. And then we have Sarkis, who is an immortal warrior trapped in a sword. He's been alive for centuries, he has more experience, but he's a little rusty because he's a little rusty because he's in a sword. He is a sword. He gets to be the one to reassure Hala, to say that she's beautiful, she's worthy, which is all good things. They're not bad things, but it's just a pattern of the dynamic between Kingfisher's leads. I will say though that one pattern that I like when it comes to the couples in her books, she writes older characters, so like they're 30 and above. Hala, if I remember correctly, she's 36, and then Sarkis is 500 years old. Even before he went into the sword, he has a bit of gray in his hair, he has a bit of tummy, which I appreciate. Mostly when we're talking about romances, the leads are always this youthful, they're conventionally pretty, so I like it. If Kingfisher keeps writing characters who are in their 30s and 40s, I wouldn't complain. I like it. Another Kingfisher romance point is how fast the romance progresses, or how fast the attraction comes. It's less apparent in Swordheart. It's still fast. The 2 characters get attracted to each other rather quickly for my taste, but it's more evenly paced compared to the other books. In Swordheart, the attraction comes from close proximity. Because they are traveling, they are on the run, and Sarkis is bound magically to protect Hala. He's magically obligated to care for her and protect her. So you can kind of understand more why this protectiveness turns into genuine care. Their personalities match well, I think, compared to the other books. So in Swordheart, Hala and Sarkis have more time to kind of get to know each other. They have more time to banter and to needle each other and get to know each other. Sarkis is this stoic, pragmatic warrior. He thinks Hala and her country as decadent. He always refers to the South as the decadent South, the decadent gods, decadent people. Compared to his, it's very soft, it's very gentle. And Hala, true to what Sarkis thinks of her and of her country, Hala is the soft one. She's compassionate. She's not afraid to show her emotions. She's the soft side of Sarkis's rough exterior, roughness. Their banter is really funny, actually. Well, not all the time, but most of their banter is funny, mostly because of due to Sarkis's reactions. He's really very stoic. He's this, straight man act, while Hala she's a yapper. She's ridiculous sometimes. There's no filter between her brain and her mouth. She says what she wants. This creates some ridiculous conversations between them, which is funny, which is good, creates a moment for them to bond. As they're traveling, Sarkis's protectiveness of Hala becomes more personal. It's not about the magic of the sword anymore. As someone who came from a very harsh life, everything is an eye for an eye. He came from a time where wars were very common. There's war between the tribes. It's a very harsh life. So now meeting Hala, who is the exact opposite. She's soft, she's decadent and warm. He finds her sort of like a light in the darkness kind of thing. And on Hala's end, she's naturally caring. She can also be naive and ignorant. After they escape Rutgers, how they find an inn to stay in. A woman approaches Hala and asks to eat with her because there's not a lot of women traveling. So Hala looks like she's by herself because she sheathed the sword, so Sarkis is back in the sword. Hala appears to be traveling alone, so another lone woman approaches her, asks her to eat with her, and Hala, being the compassionate person that she is, she understands traveling alone as a woman is dangerous, so she lets the stranger eat with her, and then when the woman asks to exit the inn with Hala to basically, you know, travel with her while she waits for a friend or something like that, Hala agrees. So they go out, and it turns out that the woman is a con woman. She's a thief. She pulls Hala outside and robs her. Her partner, her friend, comes in. You know, it's an armed man. They threaten Hala. Luckily, Hala manages to lift the sword a bit, so Sarkis appears and saves the day. He manages to scare the two thieves, which will come back later on, because the woman actually saw Sarkis appear from thin air. My point was, Hala, while she's compassionate, she's also naive and can be taken advantage of, which Sarkis is frustrated about, which also triggers his more protective instincts. So their dynamic between protector and protectee? Between protector and wielder is a bodyguard romance, right? It works. The one thing that I also really like about the romance is how Sarkis is very aware of power over Hala. Like, while at the same time he is bound to Hala magically, he is also aware that he is Hala's protection. He is Hala's safety. And that Hala is in a precarious situation with the inheritance, with traveling. So he's very aware that she's not safe, and that if he pursues her romantically now, Hala might just go along with it to prevent Sarkis from leaving. So I like that it was brought up. I like that Sarkis was very aware of that, that Hala can't say no to him just now, and that Hala might be forced to return his feelings, or might be forced to say yes to him because of the situation that he's the protector. Hala is vulnerable right now. So I like it. I like that it was brought up. Another thing about Kingfisher, though, there's also very male gaziness on the male lead's POV, not just in Swordheart, but in the Paladin series as well. Like, they always have to mention breasts, which you don't have to. Kingfisher likes to mention breasts a lot. That's one of the negative things that one of the things that I don't like about her writing. Which brings us to the story. For me, the story is 5 out of 5. We have an enchanted sword. We have an immortal stoic warrior trapped in a sword, bound to whoever is wielding it, bound to protect them. We have Hala, a well-meaning heiress or accidental heiress, whose only want really is to help her nieces. So that's why she wants the inheritance. She wants to give dowries to her nieces. Because it's about two characters who feel like they don't belong, and it's about them finding their place with each other, with the community as well. Because Sarkis, you know, he's displaced in time. His country probably doesn't exist anymore. He's 500 years in the future. And then we have Hala, who she doesn't really have family near her. She has two nieces, but then they're in a different area. Like, she's isolated from them geographically. And then she's surrounded by in-laws who just wants to use her for the money. They intend to abuse her, actually, and control her. So it's very isolating for her as well. And then they come together, they find their place together, and they make friends as well with Zale. I really like their dynamic with Zale, especially Hala and Zale. The book mentioned that they are the same. Like, they're quite inquisitive. They make Sarkis do this experiments, like peeing in a jar, which makes them funny, which makes them relatable, which makes them just enjoyable characters to read about. I rated the plot 3 out of 5. Yeah, I would say it's a quest or like a traveling plot, because they flee, right? They flee Rutgers. How they go to a city called Amalcross to find Bartholomew, someone who Hala thinks could help her with her inheritance. The plot is, I would say it's slow to medium paced, and it does make time for Hala and Sarkis to kind of bond while they're traveling. They're forced to, you know, trust each other, to lean on each other, which they do. They get to learn about each other a bit more. Then we're also introduced to the Motherhood soldiers. The Motherhood is like a religious sect who are very aggressive. They like policing people. They harass the party twice, and then the second time they actually tried to capture Hala because the woman from the beginning, the con woman, told them that Hala is a wonder maker, so like a mage. She reported her to the Motherhood, and the Motherhood, they're kind of like, they do hunt like witches and stuff like that. Now they're out for Hala, which forces Sarkis to attack and remove them permanently from the plot. They're trying to find a place to dispose of them, and they find themselves in the Vagrant Hills, which is one of my favorite parts of the book. Kingfisher, she writes horror, and she does it really well. I think it's one of her strong suits, writing horror. She's very good at making her readers feel unease. She's very good at creating weird creatures and creatures that kind of just make you feel uneasy. Even if they're not evil or anything, just their appearance, just their otherness. I shouldn't say otherness. Their weirdness. She's very good at that. After they dispose of the body, they're trying to find a place to get back to the road, but they come into the Vagrant Hills. And the Vagrant Hills, there's a deer-like creature. This creature offers to break Sarkis's curse. So they actually point him out and say, "We see your curse with a sword. We can help you." Sarkis, he declines because they don't really know what will happen if the curse breaks, if he's gonna die, if he's gonna become human. But he still have his duty to Hala. Like, he wants to get Hala back home safely. So he declines. But for Hala's part, Hala tries to tell Sarkis to go for it because this might be his only chance. She won't stop him if he wants to pursue breaking his curse. But Sarkis decides they can go back, even if they're not sure that, because the Vagrant Hills, they move. They're not in one location. It just pops in whenever, and then it pulls people in. You don't go there, but the place pulls you in. Anyway, Sarkis declines the help. He prioritizes Hala, and even though they're not sure that he can get back to the Vagrant Hills, he's okay with that, which is sweet. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like the romance is more evenly paced compared to the other books, and it's because of scenes like this where the bond is more emotional rather than about the physical. There's a lot of that too, but we get both. The reason why the plot is not like 4 out of 5 or even 5 out of 5 is because it is a bit it's not generic, but you can see the twist coming. When Hala and Sarkis gets to Amal Cross, when they get to Bartholomew, the man who could help Hala with the inheritance because he was a witness to writing the will while in that city. Actually, before I go there, just one other note. One other thing that makes the romance work is Hala offers to take Sarkis to like the library, and they went through books to research what happened to Sarkis's homeland. And through that, they found out that Sarkis is about 500 years old. He found out that one of his wielders, one of the wielders who has Leo in his name, he managed to live a peaceful life after the war. He used Sarkis for war to, conquer lands, but in the end, as he grew older, he was able to rule his village peacefully, and Sarkis was able to find out that the lion's descendants were able to continue living peacefully. So there's that closure for Sarkis, and Sarkis is touched that Hala was able to offer this to him, that Hala even thought about this, because his other wielders, they treated him as a weapon, which he is, but he's also a person. And Hala, she always saw Sarkis as a person. There are also parts where Bartholomew would ask to buy the sword, or Sarkis would even bring up that if you don't need me anymore, you can, sell the sword. But then Hala would be like, well, no, you're a person. I can't sell you. Which is another nice emotional tie between them, which makes the romance work. Now, going back to the plot point I was trying to make, where it's obvious what's going on or what's happening. So after Hala and Sarkis went to the library, they get attacked. The thugs, they specifically call out Hala. They mention she's from Rutgers Howe, and they specifically want the sword. Sarkis does think, like, how come they know that where she's from? But then it doesn't go anywhere. Like, he brings it up. How would the thugs know where Hala came from, when they never talked about where she came from? They were talking about enchanted swords and stuff like that while on the line, like in public places, but they never mentioned where Hala was from. So Sarkis thinks, like, how come? But it doesn't really get followed up on. The characters don't think about it again. But then you as a reader, you kind of, okay, it's probably Bartholomew. But the characters don't think that. They don't even, they don't bring it up again, which makes it frustrating as a reader because, like, why are they not thinking about it? Why are the characters not, when it's a big thing? Sarkis was injured. They got separated with Hala, so why not follow through with that thought? Which ties into the end, where it's revealed that Bartholomew was the one who hired the thugs so they can take the sword. But then it's presented as like this twist it doesn't really work. If you already kind of suspected him, if you already kind of knew, it doesn't really land. Last quarter of the book, they introduce another character, which is Nolan. Nolan is from a religious sect that knows about the enchanted swords. They know there's 3 of them. They know that Sarkis is one of them, and they're looking for the other 2. Once Hala and Sarkis return, the inheritance plot is resolved quickly. Hala and Sarkis confess their feelings, and now that Hala is back home, now that she has her inheritance, Sarkis is able to pursue Hala. So Sarkis is able to confess his feelings, and Hala reciprocates. They spend the night together. At this point, Sarkis hasn't told Hala everything yet. He didn't plan to move things along with the romance until he tells them everything, but once they confess their feelings, it was sort of in the heat of the moment. So the morning after, he decides, yeah, Hala needs to know. So he takes the sword, which has writing on the blade, and he goes to Nolan, who is there, living at the house for now after the celebrating. He says, you know dead languages, read this. Which Nolan does. The writing in the sword, on the sword's blade, says something about someone being faithless in life will be faithful in death. If I find the quote, I will make an insert and then correct. The gist is like that. So Sarkis was a mercenary. Yeah, so Sarkis and his mercenary group were hired to protect a village, a palace, a castle, I don't know. They were sent to protect a place that is being sieged. Sarkis doesn't think they're gonna win, so he prioritized the lives of his men, and he abandoned the Lord. The Lord. He abandoned his employer. But then he comes to realize that their allies arrive like a couple of days later, so Sarkis realizes that if he only held out, they would have won. But he didn't wait. He prioritized his mercenary's life. They went out, they betrayed the Lord, they get captured, and their punishment is being trapped in the sword. The person who made the weapons punished them because they were not loyal to their employers. They will be forced to be loyal to whoever wields the sword. So that's his punishment. When Hala learns about this, she gets angry. She feels betrayed. For me, it feels out of the blue. Like, I don't think Hala would be that hurt about it, because she was pretty much very accepting of Sarkis and his bloodlust. He threatens to kill people a lot of times, and he would mean it. Yeah, Hala was like accepting of that. He's just part of him. So at first I didn't understand like why Hala would be so upset about Sarkis being a traitor. It could have been more set up, because the way it was written, like Hala, because of the lie, Hala feels like she couldn't believe the other things that Sarkis had said. Sarkis told her that he loves her. Sarkis have told her that she's beautiful, that she's worthy. But now with that lie, Hala is kind of like second guessing whatever Sarkis had told her before, which I guess makes sense. But yeah, for me, it's just it just feels like an excuse to have that third act breakup, even though it's not a breakup. I don't fully believe that Hala would react that way, but plot-wise, it's necessary for Hala and Sarkis to separate because Sarkis gets kidnapped. So in her anger, Hala relinquishes... Someone's outside, so I'm gonna whisper. In her anger, Hala relinquishes the sword. So Sarkis no longer has a master. Hala actually says, I give the sword to yourself, or I give you to yourself, something like that. But Sarkis can't be the wielder. The magic doesn't work that way. So Hala leaves. She leaves the sword, and the sword is with Nolan. Now we come to the third act conflict and the revelation that Bartholomew wants to take the sword, which is obvious. We come to this, last minute. No, not last minute, but we come to this, I guess it would be a fourth act. Yeah, like a fourth act where Hala runs after Bartholomew. So she runs out of Rutger's house, travels the same road as she did twice now to save Sarkis. There's a lot of things that I like that happen here, aside from Hala getting angry and storming out. I'm just gonna read one of my favorite moments. Chapter 53. The morning came and Sarkis wrote a letter to Hala. It was short and to the point because he had far too much to say. I am alive, he wrote, and then stared at the paper, his thoughts clattering in his head like bones. I really like Sarkis' character, silent, stoic, strong type. What was I talking about? Yeah, the ending. So Hala runs after Bartholomew. They eventually catch up, but by then it's too late. When they come in, Bartholomew's dead. Nolan killed him, and now Nolan is the wielder. Hala's plan is to talk down Nolan. She's prepared to bargain with him. She's prepared to give all her inheritance to Nolan. But because Nolan's interest with the sword is more religious rather than financial, Nolan won't give the sword to her. So instead, he orders Sarkis to eliminate Hala. And Sarkis won't do that, obviously. So he kind of overrides his own magic. He makes the sword or the magic believe that he is the most dangerous threat to Nolan, because if he harms Hala, then he would kill Nolan. So he kind of overrides that. He makes the magic think that he is the biggest threat to Nolan's life. And then he falls on his own sword. And Hala's first thought is, oh, that's how you do it. This emotional moment where Sarkis says, he basically sacrificed his life for Hala, and then he dies. Hala is after Nolan. There's no more chance for Nolan. Like, she's not giving him another chance to bargain. She threatens him with a crossbow. She shoots him in the thigh, I believe. Yeah, while I didn't like how the plot made Hala and Sarkis separate, I did like the last bit. Quite funny, even though it's it feels like shoved in the end. But it worked for me. I liked Sarkis sacrificing himself, overriding his own curse to save Hala. I like that. So now we're going to talk about the writing. I rated the writing 3.5 out of 5. I've mentioned earlier that the attraction comes quickly with T. Kingfisher books. I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of books that say it's slow burn, or even if they don't say it's slow burn, but it's very insta-lovey. The physical attraction is there to jumpstart the romance, but then it doesn't really work because there's no emotional bond yet. That's the way with the Kingfisher romances. I feel like before there's an established emotional bond, the characters would start thinking about the other character in physically, like the mention of breasts. The male character always has to mention breasts in a T. Kingfisher book. You can't escape it. Actually, there's one book that didn't mention it, but that's because the two characters are gay men. There's the internal monologues as well. Internal monologues used as exposition. Sometimes the internal monologues also just there to express the insecurities, like characters thinking, what if I'm not good enough? What if blah blah blah? What if this and that? Which makes T. Kingfisher characters sound the same, because the internal monologues they're either there to give exposition, or they're either there to have the characters talk to themselves. Like they talk to themselves like, oh, you're not good enough. Well, actually, what if you are? Or, no, you can't kiss her, but then what if you do? Or something like that. There's a format to her internal monologues, the way she uses them, that makes the characters sound the same. Not exactly the same, but they think the same. Overall, I enjoyed Swordheart. Yeah, Swordheart is just it checks the boxes for the stories that I like. It has magic, it's enchanted sword, it's basically a bodyguard romance. Also, I forgot to mention a while ago, but publishing notes, like the publishing description for Swordheart, as listed on Goodreads and Storygraph, it compares Swordheart to The Princess Bride meets Blood and Ash, which is, it doesn't make sense to me. Princess Bride, yes, I see it. It's like that sort of cozy adventure fantasy silly thing, but Blood and Ash. They tried to compare the bodyguard romance from Blood and Ash to this one, which is, it's not the same at all. Even the circumstances of why the main lead is guarding the female lead is not the same. Sarkis is magically bound to a sword, and he's duty bound to be loyal and to protect the wielder. In Blood and Ash, that doesn't happen at all. Yeah, Hawk kind of plays the bodyguard for Poppy, the main character, but the circumstances are different. He's not stuck in a magical sword. He is not magically bound to be a protector to Poppy. So I don't even know why the comparison was made. I think publishers or the marketing team needs to stop just comparing any book to whatever is popular. Did they just Google popular bodyguard romance and put Blood and Ash in? A lot of reviews on Goodreads kind of talk about this as well, the comparisons. They don't make sense. It's either false advertising or it ends up disappointing readers. So it's either you lied, or worse,
the expectation is not right, so then the readers end up not liking the book. Without the comparison, they could have liked it, but because the expectations were different, so the readers ended up not liking the book. The book and the author kind of draws the short stick. Is that the idiom? Yeah, they kind of suffer for it if that happens, right? Because the expectation was completely overhyped or completely wrong, and it just sets the book up for failure, basically.
Yeah, the only reasons that I didn't give it a higher star, like a 5 stars, because of my issues with Kingfisher's writing style, with the internal monologue, the male gazy POVs, the rather quick romances, or the insta love. But aside from that, yeah, I like it. I like the stories. Kingfisher creates interesting stories, stories that I want to read. So while I don't really agree with her writing style, I would probably keep reading Kingfisher books. Yeah, so that is Swordheart by Kingfisher. I was reading Swordheart before I decided to make a review blog, so I didn't make notes. I took some screenshots of my favorite quotes, but yeah, so if this is a bit jumbled, I'll try to make it coherent as possible during editing. If you've read Swordheart, if you've read other Kingfisher books, let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. If you found the same patterns as I did. I'll see you on my next video. Like and subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Yeah, so that was Swordheart by Kingfisher. If you would like to have your own copy, we have it in stock on our online bookstore. So Cosmos, Valor, and Vows. You can go to cosmosvalorandvows.ca and order your own copy of the deluxe edition. We have the teal sprayed edges. We only have a limited number in stock, but if we run out, you can submit an online book request form. It is on the website. That's it for me. If you want a copy, go to cosmosvalorandvows.ca. Bye.